Okay, I think we can get started now. It's just about 5 p.m. here. So, hi everyone. Thanks for tuning in tonight. This is Jordan Pedraza from Remind. I lead community here, and I'm here out of San Francisco tonight in our headquarters. And I'm joined by an awesome panel of fellow Remind Connected educators and administrators. Thank you all for joining us tonight, too. And tonight we're going to be talking about best practices with sharing and training others on Remind through this kind of back to school season. And then I'll also share a little bit about the RCE and RCA programs to date in community at Remind. And then, of course, we'll have an opportunity to share our experiences and any questions or comments. So I wanted to remind everyone that this session is going to be recorded, and I will send out the link after. And I'll also share the presentation that I use in this session afterward as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay. So hopefully you all can see that. And then just another promotion here for the class. The code is at August 10 PD. And if you text that code to 81010, you'll be in the class, and then you'll be able to access this recording and presentation afterward. But I think most of you are already in the class, so you're good to go. So again, feel free to use the class to send any questions or comments throughout. All right, so to again introduce myself, Jordan Pedraza here, leading community at Remind. We're based out of San Francisco, and I've been here for about 1.5 years, and I'm just very passionate about supporting schools and educators and administrators and school communities. And so you can contact me on Remind, my email, on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you can find me. I'm always happy to hear your feedback, hear your stories, share any tips or best practices with you. I just want to make sure we do what we can to help make your lives easier. And so I'm really excited about tonight's session. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to give a quick kind of overview and update on the RCE and RCA programs. And then we'll talk about best practices and stories with sharing Remind with others. And then I'm going to walk through some of our latest resources to help you do that. And then we'll wrap with some Q&A. All right, so what's the latest with the RCE and RCA programs? So let's take a step back here and kind of situate these programs in a broader context here at Remind. So when I say I lead community here, what does that mean? Essentially what we're trying to do is connect everyone that's using Remind as educators, school leaders, administrators, coaches, activity leads, students, parents, basically everyone. How do we bring you all together so that you can make the most out of this platform? And also, we want to make sure that you're happy, that you feel supported and celebrated and uplifted. And then ultimately, it's empowering you with the information you need to, again, make the most out of our tool. And then also partner with you in spreading the word in your schools and your communities. So specifically, our Remind Connected Educator and Remind Connected Administrator programs seek to do just that, bring these like-minded folks together from all over the world to have conversations like we're having tonight. And then we also have a few advisory boards, and that's for folks after we've been a Remind Connected Administrator or educator for a while. Then we invite different folks to continue just sharing more feedback with us, but kind of looking at our strategic plans and our roadmap so we can, again, make sure to build what's most useful to our communities. And then the way we engage with everyone and connect everyone together is a few different ways. So first is in person at events and conferences and meetups. We have a few of us located across the country. Most of us are in San Francisco, but we do have some of our community team members in different states and cities. And so we're always making sure that we're, at certain events where we can meet some of you in person, meet new organizations, new people, and just share what's the latest. And then, of course, we do that digitally too. So we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and of course, Remind. So, we use Remind classes for sessions like this. We have different classes for these programs. We have an RCE class. We have broader kind of news updates classes, and we're always going to be introducing more classes you can join. And then, with Facebook and Twitter, we use Twitter for Twitter chats and just general news and announcements. And then Facebook is what powers our community forums right now for RCEs and RCAs. And then we still sometimes get the question, well, what is an RCE or RCA exactly? So essentially, they are educators, staff, school leaders, stakeholders, coaches, leads, anyone really connected with a school community organization that's passionate about using Remind. Passionate about using Remind to improve communication, build more stronger relationships, help everyone accomplish what they set out to do. And so essentially because of that, we see RCEs and RCAs as an extension of Remind's team and really ambassadors for what we're trying to do. So they help spread awareness on Remind through lots of different ways. School trainings, at events or meetups, on social media or on the internet, through blog posts, and then of course, most importantly, providing feedback. Because you're in classrooms, you're in schools, you're on the ground. You can be our eyes and ears and help us think of things we didn't know about, because we're not. We're not in schools. We're not in classrooms. We're in our bubble here in San Francisco. So it's really helpful when you tell us on the ground what's going on, what's helpful, what's working or not, so we can build the right things. And then where are RCEs and RCAs? So we have a little map here. You can check out the short link there, where we're always updating this with new community members that are joining constantly. And we have the teal or kind of green place markers for RCEs, and then purple for RCAs. And then our stars are for advisory board members. So if you click on one of the place markers, you can check out, who's who and, what they teach or what they do, what school they're at, and how to get in touch with them if they're open to that. If you do check out this map and you don't see yourself on here, just contact me, message me on the class, on Remind, shoot me an email, and we'll be happy to add you. But we're always adding people constantly to the map. And then just to show some of the wonderful faces of our community. So what I really love about this community and these programs is that it's so all-encompassing in terms of all the roles that you all play, all the things you're doing, and so many just perspectives and ideas and contributions that we see. So we see everyone from classroom teachers, we see instructional coordinators, coaches, tech coordinators, tech coaches, we see PTA leads, we see principals, we see family, parent engagement specialists. It really runs the gamut, and that's the best part, because then we can all really come together and support each other with great ideas and pointing out new things that we didn't think about before. So there's some particular examples here. Desiree Alexander's in Louisiana, and she's been a teacher librarian, and now she's transitioning into more of a tech coordinator role. But she talks a lot about how she's used Remind with students as part of the Teen Library Council. And then Alan Hancock over in Idaho, he's been an elementary teacher for quite a while, and he's also heavily involved with his school's PTA, and he's kind of helped them get on board with helping parents adopt more technology and get connected. So those are just some examples. We see so many. I love the golden keyboard there. That's with Dawn Moffat. They have a little tradition at her school where a teacher every month gets awarded with the golden keyboard for trying new tools and trying new things. So this is our community, just everyone finding their own way to just help their communities get connected and informed and empowered. And on that note, actually, this is what we're really trying to celebrate this year. So Succeed Together means it's recognizing that it takes a village to help every student succeed. And we hear that phrase a lot, it takes a village, but at Remind, that's really at our core. That's why we seek to connect everyone at a school, teachers to parents, teachers to students, administrators or school leaders to all their staff or students and parents. And then within the different groups, within different classes or activities or sports teams or clubs, we just really want to bring everyone together so that everyone can succeed. And so what we think that can mean is taking effective communication beyond just your immediate classroom and beyond your little group, but taking it across your whole school so that everyone is connected, everyone's informed, and everyone's empowered. And then so what we're looking to do this back to school is provide you with resources to help make that happen and stories and examples of how to do that. And of course, listen to you on how we can better support that or how you're already doing that. So one of the things we're doing to kind of celebrate and encourage us to all succeed together this year is our Succeed Together Challenge. And this is just for our RCEs and RCAs. And what we're doing is rewarding the most connected schools in terms of how many participants they get connected on their school, whether they're students or parents or staff, getting their school leader on board and getting them to kind of spread it school-wide. And then messaging and communicating with each other to really build those relationships, really get everyone informed. So that's how we're thinking of the most connected schools. And what we would like to do is offer 300 character limits to everyone at a school that gets connected, with taking the first step with getting their school leader on board. So oftentimes you start out with the 140 character limit, and that's great, helps you keep it short and sweet, but sometimes you need a little bit more space. And so we recognize that in order to help you get more connected, we're offering that to schools that get everyone on board. And then we're also offering some other fun giveaways with this for the connected schools here. So grants for school supplies or conferences, you can choose. And then, of course, swag. We're all about the gear. We know you guys love it. So we have a special kit this year with new buttons, new pins, new stickers, new pencils, and notebooks, and mugs. And then also posters. We hear those are popular. So we've created a new poster, and it helps you call out what your school class code is if your school has connected everyone on board. And then also a way for you to recognize yourself as a Remind Connected educator or administrator at your school. And so you're able to kind of write in your name on the poster itself. So that's our Succeed Together challenge. And then as far as other kind of ways to share Remind during this time, whether it's a part of the Succeed Together challenge or at any time, I wanted to walk through some examples there. So first step is finding other like-minded folks, finding other Remind fans, Remind connected educators at your school. So there's lots of ways to do that. And one place to start is connecting with those outside of your own neighborhood or backyard, because then they can also help you with other ideas. So we have forums for both RCEs and RCAs. They're the short links. And again, I will be sharing out this presentation via this class after we're done, so you can check them out later. But essentially, that's where everyone can come together and ask everyday questions, ask for tips or examples or resources, or if you're getting challenged with something. It's really just supposed to be a support system for everyone, and also celebrating those wins and successes too. And then a lot of the Remind team is on that community with you. So I manage it, but there's also engineers there, there's product managers, there's our CEO there. It's really meant to be an open space and dialogue for all of us to learn from each other and support each other. So that's the first place to go, to just connect with other like-minded educators out there who are also at their schools and passionate about connecting everyone. But then at your own school or district, you can always ask, who else is using Remind at the next time you're all meeting, whether in person or even electronically. And speaking of electronically, I know this is a little blurry here, but I love this example so much. So this is Susie, and she just sent out an email at the beginning of the year to her fellow colleagues and just wanted to share her experience with Remind and offer any help, or just see who else is using it and kind of swap ideas or tips. So that can be an easy, quick step to just see who else is connected on Remind and kind of go from there. Oftentimes, another great way to see who else is using it is when you're presenting. So at a PD day or in-service day or some kind of meeting, and you're offering to present, you can always quickly pull the room, just see, by the way, who else has already heard of Remind or uses it. And that's another nice way to find out who else is on board. And then we have other materials and little initiatives to help you with finding your tribe. So for example, we have some special goodies and collateral that you can request if you're doing a PD session or attending an event of some sort or running some other kind of initiative. So we have a whole suite of stickers and buttons and shirts that I was mentioning before. Another popular and very kind of small group, intimate way to see who else is using Remind or what else others are using is a Coffee EDU. And Coffee EDU is basically just having a 1-hour coffee meetup. So any coffee shop you want, or any location really, and you talk about whatever you want. There's no set agenda. It's really just meant to be a resource for you. And then if you do that, let me know, and we can reimburse the coffee for up to $30 for that meetup. Another thing we've seen people do is post flyers. They may make their own or make little cards and post them in a staff lounge or on campus. And as I said earlier, we're sending out some new posters as well. But you're definitely welcome to create your own if you'd like. And that's another just easy way to let people know, hey, I use this, like let me know if you need help or if you use it too. So always ask us if you need any help with just finding other folks who are getting connected on Remind. And another special thing we're rolling out to just RCEs and RCAs. A lot of you always ask, A, how do I find other RCEs and RCAs at my school? So we're working on a feature that will notify you, oh, here's your buddy at your school. And then also for new teachers that sign up, since a lot of you ask, what about the new ones that are coming on board? How can I help them get started? We're also going to giving them a heads up, hey, the RC at your school is so-and-so, and you can send them a message or ask them for help. So we're trying to make it easier for you all to connect and find each other. So after you've kind of identified other peers that are using it or are interested, and then maybe you're meeting people that are newer to it. They haven't heard about it yet or didn't give it a try yet. So what we hear from our community that's really helpful is sharing your story. And I think a lot of you probably do this already, which is awesome. But I can't emphasize this enough. It's just really helpful, I think, for people to understand why do you use it, how did you come across this tool, and then specific examples of how you use it, what kind of messages you send, what goes in the messages, how often do you send them, who do you send them to, how do you set them up, all those little details. And then putting that in context of, what you teach and what you do and then how it helps you, you already do well, then that can go a long way. And so we always love to see stories in our community. In this example here, we had someone just share a sample message and posted it on Twitter, I believe, under the hashtag RemindLove. So we always say RemindLove. Make sure to definitely block out any sensitive information or names when you're doing this. But it is helpful to, again, just show a visual example of the kind of messages that you're sending and what your experience is, what the impact you've seen. And then when you're sharing your story, then it's a great opportunity to ask questions to the other person or the group you're communicating with. So, how do they currently communicate with their community? What works well, what doesn't? What would they like to improve? What goals do they have? What are they trying to do? And then that can lead to a really helpful conversation about solutions for that. And then also, we love to supply you with other information and kind of stories or proof, really, that this is an effective tool to use. So I linked off here. We have a couple of little impact studies on parent and student engagement. So one of the parent stories we hear a lot is that Remind can help with boosting attendance at parental events or conferences or open houses. And then with student engagement, we've seen in some schools where it can reduce absenteeism or truancy or boost student morale and engagement. And then we've also started to create new kind of subject-specific case studies, and we're going to continue to build more of these. But for now, we have one for coaches and bands, so just kind of highlighting, how many band teachers or how many sports teams are using Remind, and how do they use it, and what would they recommend for others out there. So we're always eager to hear your stories. Definitely share them with us, share them with your peers. I think that's the heart and soul of it all, really. And when you are sharing Remind with others, I mentioned earlier, there's lots of ways to do that, in person, digitally, on the product itself. It's really up to you, whatever suits your needs. But we do have a lot of templates you can use if you are going to do a presentation. We always recommend making a copy and just tweaking it to your school's audience or needs. Sometimes they're going to be interested in more of the family engagement side, sometimes more of the student side, sometimes more about the communication side. So it really depends on what your audience is looking for. Sometimes everyone wants to go through the steps together, like let's all walk through it, play it around, demo, and that can be fun to do. Sometimes people just want to hear your examples, see your stories. So it's often good to ask what would be most helpful. And of course, if you're doing that, please let us know. We definitely want to recognize and celebrate that. So our handle's at RemindHQ on Twitter, and we're also on Facebook. So we always love to see when you're in action. Another thing we've seen from our community that resonates is if you have any particular data or kind of stats. So for example, we've heard some stories where, last year I had X many parents show up to this event, and then now I have this many. Or same with students. Sometimes we hear stories around attendance, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes homework completion, sometimes tests, sometimes just even less phone calls, less paper, just saving our trees and money on these other tools. So really, again, whatever you think will resonate, but sometimes showing that comparison. Oh, after I did this, it saved us in these ways. And then another cool way to kind of show Remind in action while you're already sharing it is use a demo Remind class, or even if you want, use an existing class and have people just join kind of as a visitor. It's really up to you, or you can create a brand new one. And some fun things I've seen people do, they run scavenger hunts where during some kind of a session, okay, real quickly, find an example of this and take a picture and send it back to me. Or sometimes you might ask a trivia question. And we have a nice little bank of communication trivia that we're happy to share with you. So for example, the proportion of how many adults own a cell phone now in the US, or how many texts the average teen sends a day. So kind of fun, related trivia stats. And you can always look up your own, or even use it for other themes or settings. But it can be helpful to have that back channel so people have a way to interact with the platform, and you can source the questions, kind of how we're doing tonight at this session. And then I also often get asked about sharing Remind with your principal or school leader. So I think the first step is just setting up that conversation to share what your experience has been, what your story is, what you've achieved, what you've seen the impact be. And so again, it's considering what is important to your school, what's important to you. Have you seen better relationships? Have you seen better achievement, better engagement? Maybe you're saving time on phone calls or emails. Whatever you think is compelling to share. And then of course you're welcome to use the resources we provide. So we have a template presentation, we have a one-page handout. So whatever you think would help kind of convey how this all works and what it looks like. But I think the most powerful thing, going back to the story piece again, is framing it in a way so that they'll understand the benefit to them and to the whole team and the whole school. Again, going back to that Succeed Together theme. So for example, I love this example from Cindy Price. She was talking about Remind with her school leader, and she made it kind of very specific. She said, well, during the day, emails kind of fall through the cracks for us. We're in class, we barely have time to leave, so we're going to miss those. But if you text us, we're going to be more likely to see that. We usually have our phone handy. So that's just one kind of helpful, clear way about, oh, this is why this tool will make things a little bit more efficient or streamline our communication at the school for us. And then another popular thing that we've heard educators do is invite them to one of your classes or create a demo class, brand new. Again, up to you. But the most powerful thing is, I think, when they see how easy it is to join a class and then start getting messages, and then how easy it is to send messages, whether you're on your phone on the go or on your laptop or desktop. So those are some tips we've seen and heard from our community so far on that. But now let me hand the floor over to our awesome panel. And I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here for a second. And so I'd love to hear from our panel just who you are, where you're based, what you do, and then how you use Remind and how you share it with others. So who you are, how you use Remind, how you share it. Let's start with Tiffany.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffany Canageiser. I am a fairly new teacher. I teach high school English in Delaware, and I am also the instructional technology coordinator at my school. I started using Remind when I was a student teacher, and it really just, for the basic use, I was reminding kids of homework. The school that I was at and the school that I'm currently at is on a block schedule, so I've got high schoolers and I only see them every other day. So for them to remember, 2 days ago what they were doing and, what they were supposed to turn in, it doesn't really happen. So I send them a text the night before an assignment is due, and so it still allows them time to complete it and ask me any questions. I've heard from a lot of students that they felt that the communication was open between me and them because they felt more comfortable sending me, a text than they would maybe approaching me in class. I also had kids, sometimes those that feel afraid to ask questions in class, they would send me a remind message while they were sitting in class so that they wouldn't have to feel embarrassed that they had a question or didn't understand something. One of the ways that I have shared Remind is I've done a couple of coffee EDUs, and they are great because everybody loves coffee. And then I've done some sessions after school. I'm lucky that at my school they really, really encourage teachers to lead PD. So I was able to offer some after-school PD, and teachers that came got paid for it, which was really nice as well. And they've been really receptive to it. This year, since it's my first year as the coordinator, I really want to do a Remind challenge. So I've got some swag and some prizes that I'm going to give out to teachers that complete the Remind challenge within the first month of school.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that. I loved how you brought up the student voice piece there. I think that's something I didn't even touch on, but we have a student advisory board, and that was one of the things that surprised me when we first met a few months ago, how they said when their teacher uses it, it changes their perception of the teacher. It makes it feel like they're willing to meet them where they are, meet them on a tool that they use, and open up another way for them to be heard and kind of reach out to you. So that's awesome that you do that, and that's great to hear that the students have appreciated that connection. Cool. And I love the Remind challenge, too. We're all about challenges. I think challenge at more of a local, smaller scale at a school is awesome, too, because then it feels even more collaborative and fun, and I think that's important. So thank you, Tiffany.
Yeah, no problem.
Teresa, one of our Rockstar RCAs.
Hi, my name is Teresa Stager, and I am a pre-K through 8 principal in southeastern Michigan. And I started using Remind back in the day. It felt like when I was a teacher. I started teaching in 2003, and so as soon as Remind came out, I jumped on it because I'm kind of a techie. I taught choir and band, so I was one of your band teachers that used Remind, and general music. And a big thing that we used it for, which I thought was huge at the time, was our students were struggling with remembering uniforms, remembering field trip permission slips, and our classes were at 6:12 was our beginning class, and then we would leave for a field trip immediately, when school started, so they didn't have time to get out and get back to get their things. So sending Remind helped for not only remembering things that we needed desperately, but also for days that we knew there was a snow day that maybe we would get it before the kids did. And that was when the teachers were still getting the phone calls before it was on TV, and we would send our 0-hour class a message because if they're getting there at 6:12, they needed to know. Now I use it with my staff. We use it with some of our parents, different parent groups we use it for. I present a lot at conferences, and I always share it when I'm at a conference. And it still blows my mind that there are people who haven't heard of Remind yet, because I feel like it's been around forever and we've used it for everything. But it always is well received from administrators, which makes me really happy. And I will be one to say that Jordan is 1,000% correct when they're talking about asking. She's got a Facebook group set up for us, and she's constantly asking for feedback on new features and how might this work. And I get a phone call from one of the the CEOs asking me what something might happen, would I use this in my building, and so it's they truly, which I think doesn't always happen in a lot of companies anymore, but they truly are focused on what we need, and that is huge for me, especially when you're looking for. So if we were to say, Jordan, this would be really great, this, and I'm sure that they would no questions asked start trying to find a way to make it work, because they're looking to try to make it the best product for us. So digging it.
Nice. Thanks. And then how have you shared Remind with others, whether other staff or other principals out there?
Yeah, we do it, like I said, we have at conferences, I always share as a way to communicate with others. We do for, I coordinated Ed Camp Leader in Michigan this year. We used it for Ed Camp Leader. Whenever we go to a different conference, we usually either have there's either a group either set up already or we'll create one. I am working with a virtual administrators mentorship program that we use Remind for that. So I feel like modeling how it works is the easiest way to show it. And the same way in our buildings, we model it with the parents, I model it with our teachers, and they see how really easy it is to use at any conferences. But always, and you know, we send Jordan a message at the beginning of the summer and say, you know, I'm going to these 4 conferences, and she sends you a huge big bunch of swag to share with everybody. And I don't know that I've been to a conference yet that people don't love swag. So it's a, you know, it's I feel like it's an easy thing to share because it incorporates well into what we're doing, and it's an easy platform to learn how to use, so it makes it that much faster.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, this is super interesting and helpful to hear, again, the different ways people find out about it and
right.
sharing it. And the band one, too. I think that's really how we got started. It was a lot of coaches and bands. Because that was, oh my gosh, like last minute rehearsal or
right.
the change. And yeah,
and it was things where, you know, that was back when you didn't, and even now, that was even before Google Voice, where you couldn't, you know, you didn't want to give people your phone number, but you know, we had to have a way to connect with these kids. And when you're talking high schoolers, even then, you know, their cell phones were on them all the time. Yeah. So it really made things very, very easy for us.
Right. Cool. All right, Jamie.
Hi, I'm Jamie Farrell, and I'm in Connecticut, and I use Remind on a regular basis with my middle school class. I started when I was teaching AP Bio in high school, and I love the feature when we could text back and forth, because the AP kids would text me. It'd be 11:30. They'd say, I don't understand problem number 29, and I would write right back, and they're like, why are you awake? And I'm like, well, why are you doing your homework? Now that I'm in middle school, it's true. Now that I'm in middle school, I have parents and students, and the best feature of that, I'm in a magnet school now, and I can text with my parents on a daily basis. If a parent has a question about a homework assignment, if they have a question about what's going on in class, we use Progress Book for our grades, so you know they look at the up-to-date grades. I have that one-on-one conversation with them, and they feel like I'm approachable. It doesn't matter what time, what day. Kids, too. I send out a homework reminder every day saying, this is the homework. I set it up so that, like, the minute the last bell rings, because they're not allowed to have their phones with them, they get it. So they go to their lockers, and they turn on their phones, and there's their homework reminder, so they get their stuff out of their lockers if they're not my last period of the day. So I find that it makes me really approachable, and I always have my phone with me. I'm not always by my computer. Parents don't always get emails till later, but they literally always have their phone. And in my district, we're not allowed to use Twitter. We're not allowed to use Facebook, so no social media. We're not a Google school, so this is the one way I can get a hold of everyone, and they really appreciate it.
I'm muted, sorry. Thanks so much, Jamie, for sharing that. And then how have you shared Remind with others before?
Literally, it's one-on-one. Most of the teachers are resistant to technology at the school I'm at. I'm at an arts magnet school, and I'm the only one in my team of 7th grade teachers that uses it. But everyone I've spoken to now uses it. My son's daycare is now using it because of me. My other son's kindergarten teacher. So I just tell them, like, oh, you know, I didn't get that email till midnight. You know, I have a great way that you can get a hold of us really easily without having to share personal information. And I think that's the best part, because I don't want a student to have my phone number. I don't want that responsibility of not having a way to track what was said. And I love that I could print it out, because I had a parent tell me, I didn't know anything about XYZ. And I said, yes, you did, and we even talked about it, and here's the printout. And I was able to bring that with me to the meeting. And I think that was a huge help. especially, so that I can say, no, here's my documentation. I did what I was supposed to. You actually did respond. I don't have to write it in some book that someone says, well, you just wrote that wherever. It's right there. And I just printed the whole thing out, and it was like, here's the whole year's worth of communication.
Yeah, that's another one that I think gets left out or forgotten, is the ability to print out the history of everything. That can be handy for evaluations or conferences or things like that. So yeah, that's a good one to bring up too, especially when introducing it for the first time. I hadn't even thought of that myself, but so having a record of that, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it went on my Bloom board just saying, listen, there was that parent communication piece, and I had that piece, above and beyond, because every single day I was sending something home.
Yeah, and you have it right all there in the place.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Jamie. Courtney.
Hello. Oh no, and of course now the dogs are going to decide to bark. Henry, take the dogs out of here. Take the dogs. Get the dogs out of here. They're barking. Take them into my room, please. Take the dogs. Sorry. Anyway, I'm here in Pennsylvania. I use it a little differently than everybody else because I teach kindergarten, so I have the little bitty kids. So they are not using Remind themselves the way a lot of your students are. Mine is primarily only being used by the parents. The biggest way I use Remind is it helps me to build parent trust much more quickly than I could in the past. I use a lot of photos, especially in the beginning of the year. So, that time of year with kindergarten parents where, everybody's sort of plastered on the window trying to peek in and see what's happening, I can send them actual pictures of their kids and what they're doing and that they're okay, that no one's crying, that everybody's, sitting, look at us in a line, look at us go to the cafeteria, let them be part of that when parents have had their kids with them all the time and then they turn them over to me. It can be a little overwhelming, so it's been a great way to right away get them on board. And like someone said before, everyone has their phones, so they always it's a great way to just instantaneously be able to communicate with them. Also, kinders are adorable, but they're not always reliable, so it's a wonderful way to make sure actual information gets home. The chat feature is great. I get a lot of one-line messages from my parents that are like, did you really say that you needed him to bring macaroni tomorrow? No, and the message might have gotten a little, something that could have used in the past been a big problem because a parent misunderstood can now, with just a one-line chat to me, be fixed before it becomes, just a total meltdown. And sometimes the kinders are right. Sometimes I do say that they can do something and the parents don't believe them. So it's, also a vindication moment for the 5-year-olds that, and they can have that access to me. A lot of my parents, I work in a pretty low-income school. A lot of my parents work different shift work and different times, so they might be going through the backpack after they get home from a swing shift or a middle shift, and I always tell them, even if I don't write right back to you, you can write to me and it'll be there when I get to my phone, and so you don't miss communication because they had to wait, or that I'm always more available. I also use it, like someone else said, for records. I use it at my end of the year conference to make sure I can print out all. It's just so quick to be able to show everything that I have. And I'm at the point where parents ask for it. I have parents asking other teachers in my school, I get these messages from the kindergarten teacher. I want them from the 3rd grade teacher or the 4th grade teacher, which is really how I became involved in passing it on. My principal came to me and said, can you talk about this at a faculty meeting? I'm getting a lot of requests for this. How can I make this happen for everyone? So it really, when you start using it, it just sort of lights its own fire under itself. And if you kind of quickly become the expert and the one people are looking for. My favorite Remind story that I tell to my parents, again, I work in a very poor school. A lot of our families don't have a lot of things to offer, a lot of things they can do. Sometimes they often don't feel a part of the community around fall last year, I sent a remind out about 10 minutes before the start of the school day and said at the end of the week I wanted to do some activities with a pumpkin, and if anybody had a pumpkin that they could bring in or were willing to donate to the class, that the kids would really appreciate it. 10 minutes later, when I opened my classroom door, there were 3 pumpkins in my classroom line waiting to come in with this kids with these big smiles and parents with these big smiles that there was something that they could provide and they could do. And they were all like, oh, we had one at home, so we just brought it early. Is that okay? And I was like, wow, 10 minutes. I should ask for a pony. It was amazing how quickly people were able to just jump on the bandwagon.
Nice. I forgot about, so there's just sharing Remind with someone new as they'll use it on their own to create their own classes and groups. But I do still get asked about how do I share this with my parents or students, just the people that I want to get into my class. So I thought you brought up some really great points there. Like what are the stories that you can share with parents so that they understand the value of this tool. So yeah, that's also important for us to remember too, is even just getting the buy-in of the people that are in our class, because they're the ones getting our content, our information. So how do we get them on board too? And last but not least, Clemencia.
Hello, Clemencia Acevedo here. I work in the Bronx at the middle school. I use Remind mostly to communicate with parents. I get them involved in the teaching and learning of their children. So I use Remind to send them messages about homework or major assignments, and I communicate with parents telling them that some of the kids are not working hard enough or are not completing the assignments that I asked them to. And so I have a type of ongoing communication with the parent to ensure that the kids finish the assignment that I want them to. I also use Remind to send messages about teacher-parent conferences. So I used it a lot last year, and every time we had teacher-parent conferences, I had more parents come to the meetings, and they usually found me classes. So I would be in different rooms, and parents, I would communicate with them when they were in the building. Oh, I'm in room 304. Oh, I'm in room 307, and they would come find me and talk to me a little bit. And I also use Remind for conferences that I have been giving. This past July, I gave a conference at Fordham University on how parents can be informed about the assignments that I posted on Wikispaces or Google Classroom. And I also gave another conference at the New York Tech School Summit, July 27th, also dealing with Remind, how I can use Remind to engage parents in the learning process of their children and be part of the learning to encourage the kids to excel in school. And I had a lot of positive feedback from many teachers, and they are so interested in using Remind because reaching out to parents sometimes can be challenging, especially when we work in high-need schools where poverty is an issue. The greatest positive about Remind is that we send messages and it directly goes to parents' cell phone numbers. They don't have to have a computer or anything. So the communication between teacher and parent, it has become really easy. And what I learned is that parents really, really love to when the teachers communicate with them, because they become aware of how their children are doing, and if their children are not doing well, they get involved and they really try to make a difference. It's hard, but I always felt that there was always made progress when I got parents involved, and it helped me a lot in the classroom. So I was happy about that. I was not happy when I did a lot of work and before class, and it just didn't go anywhere because some of my kids didn't have good study habits. So getting parents involved helps a lot. It's never perfect, but it helps a lot. So yes, that's how I use Remind.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And I love the example of, if you're finding other events, around topics that you care about, like you mentioned the parent and family engagement one at Fordham, or if your district is doing something or there's something nearby. Like I love how you kind of, get out and about in the community and are sharing that with other teachers. So that's awesome. Cool. I'm starting to see some questions flow in. That's awesome. I just wanted to quickly share our latest resources in case that would be helpful, and then I'll open it up for Q&A. So just to go back here. All right. So the first thing I wanted to mention is how you access these resources I'm about to walk through. So what you do is if you log into your Remind account on the web, and this particular way to access it is on the web, but I'm also sharing links so you can click on them outside of the web too if you're on your phone or not logged into your account. But if you are logged into remind.com, you just hover over to your profile and then you find the Connected Educator button, and it has a little apple. So if you don't see that, let me know, and I can make sure it's turned on for you. But if you click on that, then that takes you to a special site for RCEs and RCAs. And what we link off to there is our forums, any resources, and our directory information. And then I also have a short link there, bit.ly/RCE site you can go to as well. So that's all there and up to date. And then just to take a peek at specific things we have linked off to in there. So again, I'll share the specific link to this, I think, at the end of this presentation. And I'm also sharing this whole thing via the class afterward. But just to give you a peek of what's inside. So one folder we have is for badges and email signatures. So you can access your badge on the RCE site. We have a little link right here at the top. And then also we have them in a folder for you. And then also the email signature, that's only in this folder. But what it is just a template, and then you can kind of copy and then paste it in your own email app and then tweak it to your needs. So that's kind of what it all looks like right there. And we see people get really creative with that. And of course, you're also welcome to use the badge on any other places you have. If you have your own blog or site, social media, wherever you want. And then we have kind of a back-to-school, school-wide kit. So a lot of times people ask, I just need everything in one place, like all the handouts you have, all the case studies, all the testimonials, all the updates. So that's all in that folder. So some sample things in there are the new band and sports case studies we have, and also overviews on new features we've launched, like activities that lets you organize field trips and events on Remind. Definitely look out for that. It just says activities when you're in your Remind account. So that's all in there for kind of the school-wide piece. The survey templates are my favorite. So let's say at the beginning of this year you want to do an assessment of what your parents or students are looking for the year. And then that can inform what kind of information or what kind of communication to use for the year. So we have both a printable version that you can print out if people want to fill it in, or you can do a digital version. We have a Google Form template that you can make a copy of and send it out digitally over your Remind class. And we have templates for both the beginning of the year and end of the year. So I won't go through every single folder in here, but another folder I wanted to mention was specific for handouts and any flyers. So if you just want a quick one-pager to pass around or share, that's all in there. And here's one example. We have one on Remind Translate. So it's a little bit more of a tutorial kind of focus, and then it also shows a little story and example. And then another favorite of mine is our PD in-service kit folder. So that's targeted towards those who, they're going to do an official kind of training or session. And so we have our presentation templates. We also have a really cool worksheet. So if you want to have kind of more of a workshop style interactive format, we have a template on asking participants, how they would describe Remind, make sure they understand how it works and kind of guide them through brainstorming, how it can help them. And then we also have a special badge. If you have done a presentation, you can use that. And then there's a special certificate. And by the way, I'm also going to send this particular certificate to everyone via the Remind class after our session today too. But anyways, there's a template of that in there in case you do a particular PD session. So there's the link to that again. It's all there. And again, I'm going to share this presentation out after the session is over. And then the other thing I always get asked about, and I saw one of you ask it during the session today, let's say you want to request some materials like maybe stickers or pencils or shirts or things like that. So just use this event request form, and this will be included in the presentation I send out so you can find it after. But if you fill that out and just let us know the details of the event or initiative you're running, and we'll see what we can do. We can't accommodate every request, but we try our best. And if we don't have enough swag at the time, then always try again. Usually, if it's not the first time, we get batches every couple of months or so. And the last thing I wanted to mention is just to give you a little bit more visibility into who the team is. And this is certainly not everyone at Remind, but this is our kind of community team here. So if you ever have any questions, if you need maybe someone to visit your school or do a hangout with your school, want to just collaborate on something together, share some feedback, need resources or anything, contact us. We're here for you. So hopefully by now you know who I am. I lead our kind of national community team, and there's my email. You can message me on Remind, find me on the internet. I'm happy to support you. And then there's other awesome folks I work with that kind of focus on specific regions. So we have Taylor, who's based in New York. He leads our Northeast kind of community. We have Connor out here in California with me. He looks after that state. Sarah Doherty, she's based in Philly. She looks after the Mid-Atlantic. Jackson is based in Chicago. He's in the Midwest. And then Laura is in Austin, Texas, and she looks after the South. So a lot of us have worked in the classroom before or at schools, and we're just eager to support you and make sure you have what you need to make the most out of Remind. So that's our team. So now just to have some Q&A here, and if we don't get to your question, I'll definitely make sure to reply back to it on Remind. There's the class code again, in case you haven't joined it yet. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And if anyone in the Hangout has questions too, feel free to jump in. Although y'all are pretty awesome experts already. Let's see. Random question. What is the Remind logo? A brain, a speech bubble? That's a great question. I think it's kind of both. The original name was Remind 101, so now it's just Remind. So I think the brain piece to us definitely is related to it, but sometimes for a messaging app, a little cloud bubble or a little messaging bubble is also representative of that. So it's kind of a play on both of them. And then the other question, there was a question for Courtney, if you're able to answer. Are there very many parents that aren't able to use Remind because they don't have internet access or a smartphone?
I find actually that Remind is the best way that I can contact them. I have a lot of parents that don't have computers, but most of them have a smartphone or a tablet nowadays that seems to be what they're using. Actually, it's funny. I was talking to someone with a flip phone, and they couldn't get them. Their carrier didn't have them anymore. So most, I think, carriers are switching to some sort of smartphone-based product, and that obviously will work with Remind. My families, and some of them are incredibly low income. Someone in the house usually has a phone, and that's usually the internet access for the family. So I am not finding that. In fact, I'm finding kind of the opposite thing. I have more people involved than ever before. I actually don't think I said about this tonight, but like last year I had grandparents who would join my Remind in my kindergarten just because they wanted to see the pictures of the kids and be part of it. So now I have multiple parts of families connecting. It's also, I'm finding with parents, families more and more that are divorced or parents that aren't together, it's a great way that I'm able to hit mom and dad in one message versus, you know, hoping that that kind of trickles through whatever parent happened to pick up the backpack that day. So I have not really found it to be a problem at all.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. And then last question was from this person, who is the lead for the Northwest? So that's me. Any other region where we don't have someone there, I look after that. So yeah, love working with Northwest schools. Is there a history of how Remind got started? Yes, there is. So we're about 5 years old now, and it was started by two brothers based out of the suburbs of Chicago, Brett and David Koff. And when they were in school, Brett in particular, he actually had dyslexia, and he credited his teacher, Mrs. Whitefield, as just being super supportive and willing to make sure she was communicating all those little reminders and things that you have to stay on top of as a student, and then also being willing to communicate that with his family, so that everyone, again, helped him succeed. So that was the inspiration and story behind the creation. So his idea was, what if I could create something that would just make it easier for teachers like Mrs. Whitefield to send messages out to everyone just really quickly all at once. So that's the question there. Let's see. So another question, how do you keep all of the family relationships straight? And then maybe do you ever have grandparents add something to their name to link them to a student, or really any parents? So I guess first for our panel, any thoughts on how you keep track of those relationships? I have some notes I can say, but.
I can add.
Sometimes I have to keep.
I usually go in and add like so-and-so's mom into their name so that I have that piece there. So if it's Jordan's mom, I'll say Jordan's mom. Because a lot of them put weird things in anyway, so then I go and edit who they are so I know who they belong to.
Yeah, we have a lot of parents who, when they sign up, they'll say, you know, I'm so-and-so's mom, and that's what they'll put in as their name. And even grandparents too, they'll say grandma of, you know, blank, because I think a lot of that generation assumes that you don't know who they are when they're putting things into, you know, it's a generalization, but from what I've seen, you know, when they're putting or connecting with something virtual, they just assume that you don't know who they are, so they'll put, you know, this is Lori, you know, grandma of Maya or something like that, and it's more often than not how they initially set it up.
Sometimes I do have to cheat with my like emergency card, like piece the puzzle together and be like, okay, who are you exactly, and figure it out. And actually, you know, I do that about after a couple days of school too, just to see if there is a family that's not there, and then I will approach them sometimes and say, hey, did you want to be part of that? You know, did you want me to show you how it works, or see, though my parents usually end up taking care of it themselves, because when they come to pick up the kids and they hear other parents talking about pictures or messages, they're like, I want that, you know, where'd you get that? So
yeah,
like, sometimes it takes a little bit of mapping it all out to be like, okay, now I figured out who you are.
Right. Yeah. And someone else was asking, where do you put this information? Do you use the notes feature? And yes, I've seen people use the private notes. So if you click on the particular participant in your class, and then there's a little box where you can just add a note that only you see and access. So we hear of tons of people doing that. So, you know, hey, this is so-and-so's mom or so-and-so's parent or whoever. Let's see here. What are the best strategies you use to get parents signed up for Reminds? Anyone on the panel want to start with that?
You know, I'll start. I think the biggest thing as an administrator that we tell parents is that we're going to share, like a lot of people on the panel have said, photos and special things that are happening during the day, and then that we're not sharing anywhere else. and that becomes a big lure for them to jump in, because we say, you know, you're going to get other information on here too, but we're also going to put some freebies. You know, I'm going to walk around the school and I send little videos out, or I'll send pictures out, or things like that, and that gets them a little bit more excited to jump on initially, because they feel like they're going to see more than they would if they weren't with the app.
I'd like to add to that and say that I give special extra credit just on Remind. So if you don't have Remind, you miss out on those opportunities. So the parents and the students say, well, how did I not get that? And I say, well, it was on the Remind last night. Aren't you? Here's the card. Here, you know, this is how you sign up. And then they do, because they want the kid to have the extra credit, even if it's something little.
I use the kids for that too. I will, you know, tell the kids that I'm going to send a clue over the weekend about what our theme's going to be, or a story that we're going to read. And if you want to know before everybody else, you know, got to make sure that your family signs up, so that, because I'm going to send out the picture, or, you know, I'll send a picture of like a stuffed animal dinosaur if we're going to start any dinosaurs. And the kids, when I open the door on Monday morning, are like, it's dinosaurs, it's going to be dinosaurs, you know. So I find they are a better ambassador than I am when they're pulling on their parents as they leave each day. You know, I want to know what's going to, you know, you got to sign up for me. Like, usually the parents are just like, just hand their phone over to the kid. Just do it, you know.
For me, I usually get the contact information of the parents from the secretary, and I look at the cell phones and I give a call to parents. Sometimes I first send them a text message, and sometimes they respond, and when I have them on the phone, I tell them that I use Remind and that I would like to stay in contact with them, and I explain to them a little bit how I use Remind. In other occasions, I just automatically sign them up by typing their cell phone numbers and giving a follow-up with a phone call or sending a message. Oh, this is Ms. Acevedo from class 805. Your son or daughter is in my class, and I would like to use this method of communication. I never have a problem, and it's usually always very positive. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Thanks for sharing all those tips there. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I did see some more questions trickle in. I'll try to respond to those. But thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to join us tonight and participate. I loved all the questions. I loved your examples. And thank you to our panelists as well for also taking the time and sharing their experiences tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. So as I said, this is all recorded, and I will be sharing out the recording and presentation and the certificates via this class after everything's wrapped up. So thanks again, everyone, and have a wonderful evening and start of the school year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.